Hi friends, I'm back with more of the BFG, and if you remember yesterday, the BFG went dream catching, and he caught something called a trogglehumper, which we learned was a very bad dream, and the BFG does not like those. So today's chapter is called A Trogglehumper for Flesh Lump Eater. They is always havin' 50 winks before they goes scamperin' off to hunt human beings in the evening, the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments to let Sophie have a better look. Giants is only sleepin' every then and now, he said. Not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleepin'. Is it ever occurrin' to you that a human being who is 50 is spendin' about 20 years sleepin' fast? I must admit that's never occurred to me, Sophie said. You should allow it to occur to you, the BFG said. Imagine it, please. The human being who says he is 50 has been asleep for 20 years and is not even knowing where he is, not even doing anything, not even thinking. It's a funny thought, Sophie said. Exactly, the BFG said. So, what I is trying to explain to you is that a human being who says he is 50 is not 50. He is only 30. What about me, Sophie said. I'm 8. You is not 8 at all, the BFG said. Human being babies and little chidlers is spending half their time sleepin', so you's only 4. I'm 8, Sophie said. You may think you is 8, the BFG said, but you is only spent 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You's only 4, and please stop higgling me. Titchy little snap whippers like you should not be higgling around with an old sage and onions who is hundreds of years more than you. How much do giants sleep? Sophie asked. They's never wasting much time snozzling, the BFG said. 2 or 3 hours is enough. When do you sleep? Sophie asked. Even less, the BFG answered. I sleep in only once in a blue baboon. Sophie, peeping out from her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque now than when they were awake. Sprawled out across the yellow plain, they covered an area about the size of a football field. Most of them were lying on their backs, with their enormous mouths wide open, and they were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly, the BFG gave a jump in the air. By gum frog, he cried, I's just having a most wapsy whifflin' idea. What? Sophie said. Wait, he cried. Hold your horse feathers. Keep your skirt on. Just you wait to see what I's going to bring about. He galloped off fast to his cave, with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of the pocket. He rolled back the stone. He entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. You stay where you is in my pocket, he said. We is doing this lovely bit of buck-swashin' both together. He laid aside the dream-catching net, but hung it on the suitcase. He ran across to the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he had been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out of the cave. What is he up to now? Sophie wondered. Peep your head up good, the BFG said. Then you will be a fine winkle of what is going on. When the BFG came near the sleeping giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes towards the ugly brutes. They were all snoring loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the blood bottler, the meat dripper, the child chewer. Then he stopped. He had reached the flesh lump eater. He pointed to him. Then he looked down at Sophie and gave her a big wink. He knelt on the ground and very quietly opened the suitcase. He took out the glass jar containing the terrible, nightmarish trogglehumper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. Oh, she thought, this could be rather dangerous. She crouched lower in the pocket so that only the top of her head and her eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of sight very fast should anything go wrong. They were about 10 feet away from the flesh lump eater's face. The snorting noise he was making was disgusting. Every now and again, a big bubble of spit formed between his two lips, and then it would burst with a splash and cover his face with saliva. Taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squirming, faintly scarlet trogglehumper into the wide end of the long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to his lips. He aimed the instrument directly at the flesh lump eater's face. He took a deep breath, puffed out his cheeks, and then woof, he blew. Sophie saw the flash of pale red go darting toward the giant's face. For a split second, it hovered above his face. Then it was gone. It seemed to have been sucked up the giant's nose, but it all happened so quickly, Sophie couldn't be sure. "We better be skedaddling away, quick, to where it's safe," the BFG whispered. He trotted off for about 100 yards. Then he stopped. He crouched low to the earth. "Now," he said, "we's waitin' for the gun and flames to begin." They didn't have long to wait. The air was suddenly pierced with the most fearful roar Sophie had ever heard, and she saw the flesh lump eater's body, all 54 feet of it, rise up off the ground and fall back down with a thump. Then it began to wiggle and twist and bounce about in the most violent fashion. It was quite frightening to watch. "Yow!" roared the flesh lump eater. "Ah, yow!" He was still asleep, the BFG whispered. "The terrible trogglehumper nightmare is beginning to get him." "Serves him right," Sophie said. She could feel no sympathy for this great brute who ate children as though they were sugar lumps. "Save us!" screamed the flesh lump eater, thrashing about madly. "He's after me! He's getting me!" The thrashing of limbs and the waving of arms became more violent by the second. It was an awesome thing to watch, such a massive creature having such a mighty convulsion. "It's Jack!" bellowed the flesh lump eater. "It's the gruesome, gruntulous Jack! Jack's after me! Jack is whack-crackling me! Jack is spike-sticking me! Jack is splash-splunking me! It is the terrible, fright-swiping Jack!" The flesh lump eater was withering about over the ground like some colossal, tortured snake. "Oh, spare me, Jack!" he yelled. "Don't hurt me, Jack!" "Who is this Jack he's going on about?" Sophie whispered. "Jack is the only human being all giants is frightened of," the BFG told her. "They is all absolutely terrified of Jack. They is all hearing that Jack is a famous giant getter." "Save me!" screamed the flesh lump eater. "Have mercy on this poor little giant. The beanstalk! He's coming at me with this terrible beanstalk. Take it away. I's begging you, Jack. I is praying you, please, not to touch me with your terrible beanstalk." "Us giants," the BFG whispered, "is not known very much about this dreaded human beanstalk Jack. We is knowing only that he is a famous giant getter, and that he is owning something called a beanstalk. We is knowing also that the beanstalk is a fearsome thing that Jack is using to get the giants." Sophie couldn't stop smiling. "What is you griggling at?" the BFG asked her. "I'll tell you later," Sophie said. The awful nightmare had now gripped the great brute to such an extent that he was flinging his whole body into knots. "Do not do it, Jack," he squealed. "I was not eating you, Jack. I has never eaten human beings. I swear I has never gobbled a single human being in my whole wholesome life." "Liar," said the BFG. Just then, one of the flesh lump eater's flailing fists caught the still fast sleeping meat dripping giant smack in the mouth. At the same time, one of his fiercely thrashing legs kicked the snoring gizzard gulping giant right in the gut. Both the injured giants woke up and leaped to their feet. "He is swiping me in the mouth," yelled the meat dripper. "He is bung swaggling me smack in the guts," shouted the gizzard gulper. The two of them rushed at the flesh lump eater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched flesh lump eater woke up with a bang. He awoke straight from one nightmare and into another. He roared into battle, and in the bellowing, thumping, rough and tumble that followed, one sleeping giant after another either got stepped upon or kicked. Soon all 9 of them were on their feet, having the most almighty free-for-all. They punched and kicked and scratched and hit each other as hard as they could. Noses went crunch, teeth fell like hailstones. The giants roared and screamed, and for many minutes the noise of battle rolled across the yellow plain. The BFG smiled, a big wide smile of absolute pleasure. "I's loving it when they is all having a good toughin' rumble," he said. "They'll kill each other," Sophie said. "Never," the BFG answered. "Those beasts is always biting and walloping at each other. Soon it will be getting dusky and they'll be galloping off to fill their tummies." "They're coarse and foul and filthy," Sophie said. "I hate them." As the BFG headed back to the cave, he said quietly, "We certainly was putting that nightmare to good use, though, wasn't we?" "Excellent use," Sophie said. "Well done, you." And that is the end of the chapter. Our next chapter is called Dreams, so we're going to continue on learning some more about the BFG and his dreams and everything that he is collecting. So stay tuned for more BFG, and I will be back tomorrow with another chapter. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.